Hello. I'll just give Facebook a minute to get its shit together. So I decided that I was going to do this lesson publicly. So this is actually a lesson that I ordinarily would share just inside of the container of bank. But today I just felt like it was an important thing to share with more people. So just give me 1 minute here, kind of get my shit situated. If you're joining me live, please let me know in the comments. If you are watching the replay, let me know that in the comments as well. So just so everyone's clear, this is a public lesson for everybody. So those who are members in bank, maybe chiming into the conversation, but also those of you who have felt the call for bank, but not really like knowing what to expect. This is kind of the great place to start. So if you're unfamiliar with me, hi, I'm Stefania. You should be familiar with me if you're watching my page, but just in the case you got tagged and whatnot. I do a bunch of things, but one of the things that I do is I teach about embodied wealth. And the reason why I teach that is because I've had a decade of experience in the industry of finance and accounting, and I have seen dozens upon dozens of people who can have tremendous amounts of money and wealth, and those who are broke in all areas. So I know the fundamental differences between both groups. And having money is actually not the telltale sign of whether you're wealthy or not. There is a lot of people who are extremely wealthy, but time broke, right? Like the number of CEOs that I've met who couldn't be on time for a meeting to save their life, whose wives are giving them ultimatums, whose children don't even talk to them. The idea of women in business, this, oh my God, we need more women as CEOs, but no one cared to ask women, hey, did you want to be a CEO? Because the way that it's structured makes all of our pussies dry. And so after 10 years of this, I was like, I'm clear that there's something missing. And I had gone and done a bunch of research around what does it mean to be a woman in business and what does it mean to be a woman in finance and accounting and entrepreneurship in general. And all I found was a bunch of women who were just men, right? They were very much in their masculine. There was still this idea of you have to struggle, you have to fear, you have to operate through scarcity. And anyone who didn't operate through that operated on the fundamental opposite of like, oh no, you just need abundance mindset. And for me, both of those were bullshit. There was something ungrounded and unrooted about everything that I was reading, about everything that I was seeing, until I saw one woman who asked the question, did anyone ask us? Did anyone ask what we wanted? And this isn't just for women, this is for men. Did anyone actually ask you, what do you want your life to be like? And generally speaking, most people were never asked. And not only were we not asked, we were told, hey, we don't care about what you actually want for your life, but here's the fundamental pathways for you to have success in the way that we define it, right? So the ordinary world defines success as having an abundance of riches in the bank, right? That's successful. They define it as having a title. So if you're a C-suite and above in a company, or if you're a business owner, then that's success. But to be a person who works an office job or a labor job, who might be living to paycheck, you're essentially scum of the earth, right? Based on how we as a society define success, which I think is bullshit. To give you some more context, I grew up blue collar, right? Mom and dad worked, not substantially well-paying jobs. And for most of my life, I was like, I just want to change the color of my collar. I just want to change the color of my collar. I just want to change the color of my collar. And so I went to business school, and then I just met a bunch of people that I hated. So I was like, okay, clearly all of this is a fucking mess, and this isn't the way that it's supposed to be. And so rather than try to fight against the current structures of wealth in the world, the way that we define success, the way that we have metrics in place for that, rather than try to fight it and change it, I realized that a better use of my resources was to create something different, was to lean towards something that was actually more in line. And so one way to look at what I teach inside of Bank is the concept of feminine economics. Now, no, this does not mean we add bows and fucking flowers and diamonds to everything. Yes, it is a lot sexier than the masculine paradigm that everyone has been forced to copulate with. But it's not about making it pretty. Okay. And that's the first thing that I want to say is feminine economics is not about making society pretty. It's about to understand the rules of the game so that should you choose to play it, you don't abandon yourself to win. Okay. So basically in traditional economics, the way that it's taught is there's a supply and demand. Right? We all know this. I supply something, you demand that very thing, we exchange. That is what economics is basically all about. High level understanding. In feminine economics, it's essentially the same thing, but we call it creation and desire. I create something that you desire, we exchange. It's fundamentally the same. But the difference between them is that one is pure logic based, it's entirely mental, and it's very dry. And the other actually includes the body. It includes the way that we get excited about things. It includes the way that our heart palpitates. It includes the way that our hands get sweaty and nervous. And the way that our body conditionally responds to actually creating things. So that's just like the fundamental understanding of the lens that we operate through. And so feminine economics is economics. It's just done in the body through the lens of a more spiritual conversation. It does not negate the realities of economics, right? So for example, another thing that in economics is, yes, there's a supply and a demand, but there's also a thing called price elasticity, meaning you will demand less if you're price elastic, meaning like you don't really, the price doesn't really affect you too much, you're still going to buy it, right? But if you're inelastic, the price does affect you and therefore it affects your demand, okay? In feminine economics, we don't call that price elasticity. We call that range, or financial range, meaning that it actually doesn't matter about the price. It matters about your willingness to back the thing you desire. And so, for example, I'll kind of show you guys the masculine way of looking at things and then the feminine way of looking at things through my own life. So in, 2017, I was introduced to a practice called Orgasmic Meditation, which I know you guys all love to laugh and giggle about, if you're not already a part of the community. And I fell in love with the practice. I fell in love with the philosophies and the teachings and the nuanced lessons that I would learn through the practice about my life in general. And there was this desire that came up that I wanted to learn more about it. I didn't want just the practice. I wanted more of the philosophy. The philosophy was deeply nourishing to me in all of these other ways. And I was also seeing how it was applied to my everyday life, right? It's because of that I was able to like keep integrity with myself while moving through a 50% reduction force in my corporate job, right? And it gave me so much that I was like, man, these philosophies are fucking potent. And so what ended up happening is that I felt this desire to go into their coaching program, but not to become a coach, right? That wasn't the desire. The desire was to be in a 6-month program where I would just saturate myself in like this newfound knowledge and way of living. And so I had no desire to become a coach yet. And the thing is that this was the biggest purchase I would ever make for myself aside from my educational degree, right? So like my for example, 1 year in university in Canada was like $8,000. This program for 6 months was more. That's all I'm going to say. And to feel my desire and then to feel the price didn't matter. Okay. So this isn't about me being price elastic or inelastic here. This is about my range and what I knew I could hold. And so even though, my salary was only like, $40,000 a year, that this price tag was in US dollars, none of that mattered because in my system, I knew that I could make the choices that would allow me to make that program happen for myself and still be financially okay. And so regardless of the price, where a lot of people would just feel the desire, see the price and then collapse because that's what masculine economics teaches us, I had already been starting to practice feminine economics in the realm of like, okay, well, what would I need to do in my system to make that happen? Okay, well, what I would need to do is actually have the conversation about a raise with my boss, which I had been avoiding for like 6 months, right? I would actually have to have the conversation about me traveling every other weekend to Los Angeles, which I had been desiring to do, but I had never actually had the embodiment to back, right? It was always this thought. It just kind of sat in my head and festered. And so once I had the desire and I realized that there was some stuff that I had to clear up for me, I started doing it, right? So I asked for the raise. I got the team on board about me traveling, and that was a yes, and it was great. I then called up the director of the program and I was like, hey, take my credit card. And because I was so clear about my desire, and I was so willing to hold my nervous system, even with the price tag, that I was able to hold myself way more open and create more for myself that would allow that desire to actually happen in my life. So flash forward, everybody said yes. I was able to pay for the program. And not only that, afford the flights to fucking LA every other weekend. You know, at one point I was living at a girlfriend's house for like a month, you know, staring at Airbnbs other months. Like there was just this way that I was able to create more in my life. Okay. 6 months into the program, I realized, oh shit, I want to be a coach. So flash forward 3 years later, this is where I am, right? I didn't go into the program because I wanted to become a coach. I went into the program for myself. Okay. And so that's one example of range. Can your nervous system handle the reality that you're about to face to have this desire come to life? Now, in the masculine world, we chalk it up and say, oh, it's pricing elastic, right? This person just has, you know, the price matters a lot to them, but that's not it. It's that your nervous system cannot handle the reality of backing your desire. If your nervous system, every time you have a desire, collapses, that's something for you to work on. Not for you to be like, oh, I'm just pricing elastic. Oh, I like price matters to me a lot. Because what'll happen is that you don't end up doing the things you need to ensure you have the resources available for your desire to come to life. Okay. And so this is why when it comes to masculine economics, and I say it in masculine, this isn't gender, right? This is energetic qualities. You could say yin and yang, you can say alpha, omega, you can say whatever the fuck you want, and I don't care. At this point, it is to categorize this particular set of traits. This is nothing to do with gender. Realistically, we all have masculine and feminine in us, if that's a fundamental teaching you don't have. And so in masculine business, it becomes this like cut and dry way of being and a cut and dry way of assessing people. Versus feminine economics is about understanding the amoeba and constant movement nature of the world and the people within it. Okay. So you may have in the masculine world price inelasticity, meaning you're very rigid around price. And that is true in the masculine phrase, right? In that lens. In feminine economics, it means that you have a limited capacity for the reality required to back your desire. That is not a static position. That is not forever. That is just right now until you grow your nervous system in a way that allows you to hold yourself in the reality, right? So again, let's take another example from my life. This well, right? So I don't have running water yet. We dug a well, and every once in a while, there's like a new crazy amount of expenses that I have to kind of fork out. 2 weeks ago, I had to pay $2,000. And it was a lot of money, right? That I was not prepared to pay. But what I had done prior to this, right? Because $2,000 for anybody is just a lot of money to put on your credit card. Is I had asked, what is the average quote you could give me on this? Just high level, basics, highest amount that this could end up being. And the gentleman at the store that we went through, this particular industrial kind of piping shop, he was like, about $2,500. So I was like, great, thank you. Because I didn't have to spend the money right away, but I knew that expense was coming. And so what I did was, over the course of, 3 or 4 weeks, I really just sat with myself being like, I have $2,500 coming out of my account, and letting my body, letting my nervous system react to that $2,500 at first, right? Because the first time it comes up, it's going to go right in your fucking face. And you sit with it and you let it kind of open. And so as the $2,500 came in, it was like a blunt force to the chest. And my dad freaked out, right? My dad was like, oh my God, do you even have that money? And I was like, mind your fucking business. And I just let it kind of hit me hard. And I said, thank you, right? Because that's what we do with the universe when it delivers us really potent messages. And I just let that pressure kind of expand more. And then as I did that, I did it every day because I knew the expense was coming. But the thing is that I wasn't victimized by it. Because again, I know that from the feminine economics lens, my state of being with a particular price is not static. I may be elastic right now, meaning the price affects me. But because I'm coming from the feminine lens, it's about my nervous system. It's about my capacity and my range. That's not static. So I can't be victimized by something that I'm actively changing, right? Like I'm actively increasing my ability to hold a $2,500 expense for my credit card. And so every day, sitting with it, noticing when my heart kind of freaks out, noticing when my mind tries to interject, notice when my legs start to shake, and just letting my body relax into it. So flash forward a couple of weeks of me doing this. Now I'm ready to go buy the rest of the materials. And I go in, I give him my credit card, and the bill comes out to $2,200. Now, again, I prepared my nervous system for 25. So now, not only have I allowed my body to acclimate, I've also likely made sure that there was $2,500 available for this purchase on my credit card. Now, I only have to spend the $2,200. I literally have created space in my nervous system and in my reality to where this purchase wasn't going to put me into a collapse. Okay. Again, feminine economics understands that everything is in movement. Everything is constantly evolving and shifting. Masculine economics has this identity around static, that this person's inelastic. And I was absolutely inelastic, right? I couldn't buy anything that day. So I'm not saying that masculine economics is wrong, is that I'm saying that there's a missing component about what it is to be in the economy of your own life. Okay. So now we're gonna peel it back from like this macro view of like economics massively, and come into your micro perspective of like, what is it to be a participant in your own economy? The creation, supply of revenue and income in your own life, the demand, desire, and the expenditure in your own life. Because if you don't have both the creation of wealth and the expenditure of wealth, then you do not have wealth at all, because that is economy, right? If all you are is a nation that creates money, but you never spend it, it's a good chance that nobody in your country is wealthy. You need to be able to spend money. You need to be able to acquire money. You need to be able to spend time. You need to be able to acquire time. You need to be able to spend energy. You need to be able to acquire energy. So when we take it from the lens that is traditionally taught in business schools and traditionally taught in pretty much every profession alive, it is so static that it doesn't understand the movement inside of it. And so you end up with people who think that everything is static. Oh my God, I'm broke. I'm forever broke. Oh my God, I'm wealthy. I'll be forever wealthy. But that's not the reality. The reality is that to remain wealthy requires a practice of reverence. And that is not something you are going to learn in business school. That is not something you're going to learn in a bookkeeping class. That is not something you are going to learn in everyday life. Reverence is an unmasterable practice, meaning there is no masters of reverence. And if someone tells you they're a master of reverence, tell them to go back to their practice. See, those who are truly embodied in their innate wealth practice a deep sense of respect for their life and everything in it. And what that means is that they are also responsible for their life and everything in it. You can't have reverence without responsibility. It's not reverent if it's also not simultaneously responsible. And so if you take somebody like, Warren Buffett, there's a good chance that he reveres his time. And he's not going to waste his time worried about drama. He's not going to waste his money buying things he doesn't desire. Nor is he going to waste his energy on something that is energetically taxing. He's going to invest his resources where his taxes become less, which is the fundamental rule of becoming wealthy people. You have to invest to become wealthy. And that's just one example. But if you really look at the fundamentally wealthy people in our planet, whether you have a perspective of them, the thing that they do that you do not is revere their resources. And I can tell that when people don't revere their resources, because in the conversation of money, they have a static opinion. They have a know-it-all perspective rather than allowing it to evolve. But they're also very willing to waste their time and energy trying to convince me of their perspective that they are so rigid in. You do not revere your time nor your energy, because if you did, you would realize that is a waste of both. Okay? Absolute waste of both. It's not that you can't convince me, it's that I understand what is true about the masculine world of which we operate and in the structures that suck. And what I'm creating and leaning into is the paradigm of where though we only take what's true about the current one, right? The current system, we're all clear, doesn't fucking work for everybody. Right? People like Dave Ramsey are saying things like, oh, you need $1,000 in an emergency savings. And I'm like, $1,000 doesn't save me this month. Right? How is somebody supposed to save $1,000 when they are trying to pay rent and trying to keep their kids fed? Beyond that, even the rule of you need to invest to be wealthy. Well, how are you supposed to invest when, in Canada, if you're on social benefits like welfare or disability, you're legally not allowed to invest. So you've got advice creators, people who are giving advice publicly online, sharing information that is actually not applicable to individual people, right? We give these hard and fast static rules as if they're supposed to apply to everyone, as if there is an actual formula to creating wealth rather than an embodiment of you and your innate wealth that is independent and uniquely determined. Okay, you're going to decide what your wealth looks like. You're going to decide what it feels like. You're going to choose for yourself how to have it expressed out in the world. And that is going to constantly evolve. That's the beauty of it, right? That's what we call in the business world a pivot. But I don't like the word pivot. I think it's stupid. I just think it's just constant evolution. You evolving as a wealthy being on this planet may mean that you started off broke as fuck. Okay. Listen, I've received Christmas hampers and I've watched my parents ego deaths because of it. Right? This isn't foreign for me. I did not grow up in British properties of Vancouver. I grew up blue collar. Parents worked minimum wage jobs for most of my life. I made more money than my parents in high school. I know what it's like, but it's much harder to move out of that realm when you're told that there's only one way to be, only one way to actually become wealthy. And the moment that you become rigid in there, you lose sight of what's true. And what is always true is that your embodied sense of respect for your life and everything in it will never follow someone else's formula. So in feminine economics, we don't teach formulas. I do not tell you that this is the way to spend your money. This is the way to save your money. This is the way to invest your money. This is the way to make money. I don't do any of that because how you do that is going to be up to you to determine. But what I do teach you is the way to relate to it, to be in relationship to your money, to be in relationship to your time and to your energy. Because these are profound resources that if you are not in relationship to them, just as if you are not in relationship to your partner, to your children, to your parents, they are going to show up differently. So one of the examples that I'll give you is not being in a relationship with your money may also kind of create the sense of, I get my money to work for me. My money works for me, which I fucking hate. Oh my God. I just want my money to work for me. I make my money work. Work, bitch, work, And so at that point, I'm like, okay, so you treat your money like you're the pimp. And then you wonder why, when you spend money, it feels gross. Where now you're like tight, you're like, fuck, I could make this money work for me. I don't want to spend it. Well, guess what? If you're not spending money, you're not a participant in your own economy. Hi, North Korea, as a person embodied, you are not spending money. How do you expect the quality of your life to go up? It won't. It's not going to go up. I'm going to be really honest. And part of the struggles that I have with the way that most people teach resources, because again, I don't teach money, I teach resources, is this idea of like, you need to live below your means. No, you need to live meeting your means every damn day. If your means mean that you need to take a week off every month, then you better create the life where you get to do that. Because living below your means actually means that you are willing to sacrifice the quality of life to get somewhere else. How long do you have to do that for? You don't know. And you will never know until you're there. And then all of a sudden you turn around, you're 75 and you're like, wow, I missed my daughter's ballet recital. I never got to see my husband. I, was a polyamorous relationship and all three of my partners fucking hated me. Oh my God, what the fuck did I do with my life? So one of the key things that I think is really important here is, if you're going to begin this journey, is understanding that embodying your innate wealth means that you will be totally counter to what every other guru teacher is going to tell you, with the exception, right? Like there's certain people that I actually really do love following because I'm like, I like your shit. I like the way you talk about this, right? So there's one woman I follow on Instagram. She's like, not all debt's bad debt. And I'm like, this is my broad. Like, I love this woman because I have the same perspective, right? Not all debt is bad debt. So when you're preaching things like debt-free lifestyle, you're preaching the lifestyle. You're not preaching the principle, right? So you're not actually giving people the rules to the game, right? Which is the system that is in place. And you're telling people, well, let's not play in that game at all. And let's have you take on a totally different way of living, even if it's not true for you. Like, let's say you're a bougie ass bitch who's actually really fucking boutique in everything that she wants. And now all of a sudden you're like, no, I need to be debt free. Well, not everybody's going to live in a tiny home. Not everybody wants to compost their own feces. Not everybody wants to like get rid of their jewelry. I am not going to get rid of my jewelry. This is not going to happen for me. Right. So to be debt free requires certain things. To be debt free means you're not going to buy a house unless you have $500,000 in the bank as cash. The average person's not going to have that. And the people who have that have debt, right? So feminine economics is not about dismissing the realities. It is about addressing the reality and playing within it, but also creating for yourself a different one. It's, you can choose to play that game. You want to do the NFT game? By all means, go ahead. I'm personally going to say, I don't think everybody in the world should be an art dealer. And I don't think that changes when you move it online, because that's essentially what NFTs are, right? And I'll do a different, if you guys want me to talk about NFTs, I'm happy to, and I'll do that on a different live stream. But feminine economics is the understanding that everything that is true will remain true. But everything that this particular truth destroys was meant to be. Okay. So the idea that you have a static place in a supply demand curve, that's just not true. That is a snapshot in a moment in time. You actually don't know if this person, like one of the examples I remember in class was like, George has an inelastic demand curve for toilet paper. And I'm like, listen, man, you get George on a fucking Tuesday after he's had a bunch of tacos, that's gonna change. Like, that is not forever inelastic. He now is like, fuck it, I'm gonna pay $30 for one roll because that's what he needs, And so, but in class, it's like this snapshot and a moment in time. And then we take those snapshots and we apply them like rules rather than what is true right now in this moment. And so this comes back to like reverence, right? When you have a deep embodied sense of respect, AKA reverence, for your time, You also understand that choices are only made moment to moment. Meaning that in this moment, you might choose to invest in PayPal. And then in the next moment, you may choose to sell and lose $14 like I did, right? You're going to choose things, and you may choose something differently in the next moment. And that's the reason why we can't stay rigid in our structures. We have to remain unattached. We have to remain in a place where we're allowed to adapt in our own lives and evolve. When we come at the place of like numbers, wealth, like fucking math, even math has variables, guys. Even math isn't static. Yes, 2 + 2 is 4, but like most of the time our lives are more 2x + y minus z over d, you know, like that's the more close reality to what we do as people. There are lots of variables to consider. And because we have those variables, we can't use someone else's formula who had different variables to adjust for our own wealth. And what happens when you don't, right? What happens when you ignore your own variables and you adopt someone else's formula? You actually have to dismiss your body in the process. And this is what we see in communities of lesser financial privilege. This is what we see in a lot of the communities that are in what are they called? Financially limited locations. So for example, being on the wrong side of the tracks is an actual thing. You can determine someone's ability to go to college based on their area code. These are very real things, right? So for those people under the current paradigm, and I was one of those people, right? I was on the wrong side of the tracks. I didn't have internet until proper internet until 3 weeks ago, guys. I was on the wrong side of the tracks. So that means that we have more expenses to adjust for, even if we're using the same formula, right? Our starting ground is so fucking different than somebody else's. That's the difference, but that's what actual privilege is, right? It's that I have more privilege based on these pretenses, but I have less privilege based on these ones. And so for me, the privilege, let's just say a coach in the city and a coach on me, right? Up until a couple of weeks ago. This coach could wake up in the morning and do their calls. Me, I have to wake up in the morning, heat my vehicle up, go into town, do a call, come home, right? So just in travel time, there's a privilege that I wasn't able to access. So that meant it required more of my energy to meet the same requirement. We only have one call a day, right? I'm expending more of me to get the same thing. That is just a reality, right? Meaning, if I adopt this person's formula for success, 3 hours a day, working from home, I actually can't do it because my variables are different. Feminine economics understands that we do not start on the same level. We do not start on the same financial ease, that there's already variables that put us in different positions. And so it doesn't make sense to use their formula for me. Right? My formula, I would never give you guys my formula, ever. I would give you tools to discover your own formula, your own practices, your own ways of being with your wealth. Because using my formula, what it took for me to get here would put you somewhere totally fucking different. Because you're starting off in a different ground, different location, different area code. Okay. And so when it comes to bank, it's like, well, where am I starting? What tools can I use to get myself in a different position? What position do I want to be? What feels really good in my system? What can I hold? Right? And so because this formula, to go back to where we start to abandon our body, this formula, for me to follow the formula of a kid on the East Coast, let's say, go to university, get an unpaid internship, get daddy to introduce you to somebody and work at a Big 4 firm. Okay. That's a standard formula for a lot of finance and accounting people. Okay. That formula for me meant that I would have to go to college, one, probably on a student loan because my parents could not afford to put me through school. An unpaid internship means that I would probably starve and not be able to live because, again, I wouldn't be able to live at home. My parents couldn't afford school. I would have to basically give myself away for free. So pimp myself out, right? Get daddy to introduce me. I'm sorry, my dad doesn't know anybody who works at a big four firm that would get me a job, et cetera, right? And so for me to do those things, I would have to like literally abandon everything in my body and pimp myself out to make sure it would happen. Right? So I would have to abandon my hunger, like my physical hunger, because I'm like, fuck, I can't, it's either work this unpaid internship or eat. You know what? I need this job. I need this job because I need to be wealthy. So all of a sudden I'm starting to sacrifice my physical health just so I can maintain this formula that, you know, Joe Blow from University of Western Ontario is following. You guys can see how that doesn't work, right? If you are confused, let me know. But like, you can see how following this dude's, or even women, right? Like someone else's formula isn't going to work for me. And for it to work, I have to do a lot of self-sacrificing, right? This is where we get into the position of, you know, assault even, and in the workplace, where it's like somebody feels like to get ahead, they have to follow this person's formula. And this person's formula is sacrifice yourself in this really inappropriate scenario. There's no sense of internal rightness about your own formula and your own path to success that you are going to default and abandon yourself to follow someone else's. Am I saying this is the root of all the fucking problems in the world? Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time you think that someone else has a better formula than the one you are designed to have for yourself, you will abandon yourself, you will give up your sovereignty, you will walk yourself into dangerous situations. And I'm saying this from experience. Okay. At one point in my life, I was working 3 different jobs. I was working at a bank, I was working for a marketing company, and I was working at like a mom and pop shop, right? I was working these 3 jobs, and they all serve their purpose, right? The mom and pop shop was to get like real tangible experience of the entrepreneur world. And then the bank was to understand finances. And this marketing company was a mix of social life, but also was getting paid really well for very little. Except the marketing company transitioned into a boss that, you know, took advantage of his power. But because who I was at the time was not someone who had rightness in her own path to wealth, who did not embody her own sense of innate wealth and worth and value, I defaulted to this man and put myself in some very dangerous situations. Do I harbor any resentment for it? No, because it actually taught me that my innate wealth is very unique and independently determined, and there's no one in the world who's going to tell me what my path needs to look like. I don't need to work 3 jobs to make the same amount of money. I'm clear on that now. I wasn't so clear back then, right? And so, but at the time, I had abandoned myself. I abandoned my heart. I abandoned my stomach. I abandoned my body to follow his path. Now, I'm not saying that every time you abandon your body, you're going to lead yourself into a sexual assault case. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you look at like mechanics. My dad was a mechanic. He broke his back trying to do all of the things that his boss said, instead of being like, man, I need to slow down. I'm actually going to injure myself. Right? Same thing with my mom, doing what the boss asked. She separated her ribs. We will actually sacrifice our physical bodies and then ultimately put ourselves in positions where we can't work at the extent we could have because we already injured ourselves, like in a real 3D sense. But on this more spiritual lens, we actually have to cut ourselves off from our heart, from our soul, from our emotions, because leave your emotions at the door. And we do that for 40 years. And then we have this beautiful thing called a midlife crisis. Those who follow someone else's formula for success will guarantee themselves a midlife crisis. Every time, without fail. And it's always dramatic, and it's always intense, and it's always fucking wild to watch. And mind you, I'm not in my midlife, right? So I haven't gone through my midlife, but man, have I seen it. I have seen it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because you can only abandon your body for so long until your body is like, fuck you. Right? And so again, we go back to what feminine economics is. Feminine economics is creation and desire, supply and demand. Well, by the time you hit 40 and you've abandoned yourself so much, Your desire is going to be like, we need what we need, we want what we want, and you're going to do whatever you got to do to get it, because this cannot go on any further. You cannot sacrifice yourself for much longer. And so now we've got people buying Camaros and Mustangs and yachts and big boats and like vacation homes in Whistler. And it's like, oh my God, how is this not making you happy? Because those are a symptom. Wanting these very grand, crazy, wild things is a symptom of trying to get back to you. Your body is like grasping at straws to get your attention. And it goes, well, let's make sure your heart palpitates 1,000 times when it sees this car, so you know that we're here. Let's make sure that you feel all kinds of erotic energy that you haven't felt in the last 40 fucking years, and make sure that you do pick up this 25-year-old, rather than the thing that's actually being said. It says, hey, we're just trying to get your attention. The body is just trying to get your attention because you've abandoned it for so fucking long, thinking that your wealth exists outside of you in some sort of external formula that somebody else tried for themselves. And I'm not saying that that formula that Joe Blow from University of Western used was wrong. Hell, if I had that ability to use that formula, I'd fucking use it too. But the difference is he has a different formula than I do. And I'm not going to shit on myself because I have a different formula. I'm just going to say, you know what? The formula I got is that I grew up in a rural community, blue collar. I had the opportunity to go to university because my grades were high enough. I decided to drop out of university because my career was taking off way faster than my degree would ever take me. I decided to leave my career because my business itself was taking off faster than my career could ever take me at the day job. That is my formula. But that's not your formula. It might be, but it's still going to look different. It's still going to feel different. See, that's the beauty of feminine economics, is that because there's this amoeba nature of it, this cyclical, constantly moving and evolving nature of it, it never dismisses the truth. It can't, right? There's always going to be supply, demand, elasticity. It just looks different. It feels different. And so in this place of being a participant in your own economy, you have to say, well, all I'm always talking about is generating wealth. And like, I can't even put money aside. I got to be buying food. I got to put like, keep a roof over my family's head. I got shit to do, right? I got a dog now. And the thing that I want to come back to is that wealth is not just about saving. Yes, by definition, wealth is about how many resources you get to keep. Okay, that's what wealth really is. And in the traditional context, we talk about that solely in money. But I'll tell you, there's no sense in having a lot of money if you never have any time. No sense in having a lot of time if you never have any money. There's no sense of having a lot of energy if you don't have time or money. If you have only time, but no money and no energy, you're depressed. You know, like you can't have just one. You can't be abundant in one area of resources. You need to have reverence for all of them, time, money, and energy. And part of having reverence is understanding that, like, man, to really respect yourself is to spend money. Sorry, bearer of bad news. I'm not sorry. You're going to have to spend money. You got to spend money to make money. And the way that lesson is taught generally is to like coerce you into like paying for a program, or like guilt you into investing into something that you're a no to. When I say you got to spend money to make money, I mean, you got to pay your rent, baby. You got to pay your credit card bill, maybe your electrical. Yeah, you got to pay off your debts. Oh, you got to spend time with mom. You got to spend time with mom. Yeah, you got to spend your energy cleaning your fucking house. You got to do that. You got to spend to earn. You have to create. That is actually the process of creation, right? You don't just simply create. There is like an actual energetic investment that takes place. And so that's why I like to change, again, the verbiage, the way that it feels to your nervous system, to rather like, oh, I spent a lot of time. I invested my time. Oh, I spent my money. I invested my money. And what you'll start to see is where you're actually spending just for the sake of getting rid of your money and where it actually is an investment. And it's an investment into your health because you bought groceries. It's an investment into your rest and relaxation because you paid for your heat and you paid for the roof over your head, right? These are investments. But because when we look at money in general, we don't think about our day-to-day foundations. We don't think about our fundamentals because we don't have reverence for them. We have zero respect for our mortgage payments. We have zero respect for our rent payments. We have zero respect for our utilities, despite the fact that those are fundamental and essential for our life. We always think about quality of life in the lens of like, oh, I get to wear silk pajamas. Ooh. No, when you can't talk about increasing the quality of your life if your foundation isn't taken care of. And this is where we need to actually talk about our spending. The big spend. See, spending is an act of participating in your own economy. You make all the money, like it's your money to spend. Who will spend it for you? Nobody, right? You'll leave it in a will and it'll go to somebody or go back to the government if you don't have a will. So you make money. What do you do with it? Make more of it? No, you got to spend it. You have to invest in the quality of your life. Now, the quality of your life right now might be like, Steph, fuck you. I just need to pay my rent right now. Amazing. I am never going to tell you not to pay your rent. I think that that's like the foundational fucking thing. Do you have a place to live? Do you have food in your belly? Do you have heat? And do you have clothes like to wear? I don't even care if they're designer. I care that you have like basic needs met, because so much of the world doesn't have their basics met. And I'm not going to go and like save people from that. I want you to feel so connected to keeping yourself stable that if I give it to you, I also can't take it away. That's the thing, right? If somebody gives you something, they can also take it away. But if you give it to yourself, the only person taking it away is you, right? And so when you're participating in your own economy, you're going to spend money. But sometimes we have this aspect of ourselves, which is the aspect that controls our wallet. And they may not be in their most exalted form. Okay. This is who I call the big spender. Okay. The big spender is the one that is in control of your wallet, AKA your bloody nervous system. If your nervous system is tight around a $5 cup of coffee, guess who's only going to be drinking gas station coffee? Even if the most truest thing for you is to have a tea from Starbucks, right? Your nervous system, your big spender, is the part of you that is going to freely release money and not think of it, or it's going to be the side of you that is like terrified to even spend $1. The reason why I bring this up is this month, we're going to be talking to our big spender inside of the vault, my monthly embodiment class. And a part of this embodied class is we do what's called aspecting. So letting that piece of us, that aspect of us, speak through us in real words, right? To actually say what needs to be said, to share what needs to be shared, but so that we can actually receive more insight as to why we react to spending money the way that we do. And considering it's the Christmas season and it's the holidays, the big spender is out a lot right now. Okay, they're very loud, meaning that they're terrified about the credit card bill in January, or they're like, oh my God, let's get him a Rolex. Let's get him a Rolex, right? And they're spending extraordinary amounts of money. Or they're so frugal that they're like, can we just get everybody like a $20 gift card? Can you just? The part of you that gets excited about like the caps on gifts at parties, right? Like that side of you. The one who looks for external rules to operate within rather than being understanding and generous, because it actually doesn't have the capacity to be. So this is the irony. Your big spender is either so generous that it's self-sacrificial, or it's not generous at all because it has no capacity to hold yourself within it. And so this month, we're going to be talking to our big spender because it's not just money, right? It's how we spend our time. You might spend a tremendous amount of time on something that really didn't need a lot of time to be done. And I actually did this yesterday, right? So Yesterday, I was trying to log into my Instagram account and I got blocked. And it like said that it sent me a 2FA code to my phone. No, it didn't. And I couldn't log in. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was so annoyed. And I had spent like an hour and a half on it. And the truth is, most of that time was me fucking around because I just needed to wait. Close down my browser, go do something else for an hour and come back. Because everything that I did within that hour and a half didn't change the outcome. I could log into my account at the same time, whether or not I sat at my computer and waited for it, or if I went and did my dishes, right? My big spender loves to waste time. Loves it. My big spender also loves to waste money. So she'll buy food that she's no desire to cook under this like fantasy that she will, that her buying it is going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to eat so well this week. When like my internal chef is like, we're not eating that. Bok choy. No, thank you. I only like that when it's made at the Tapanaki restaurants. Right? My big spender spends frivolously. But at the same time, she is not fucking generous. She is stingy as fuck when it comes to other people. When it comes to other people, she is not willing to invest a whole lot of energy when she doesn't know somebody. And so obviously that doesn't work in this line of business, right? The business I'm in, like I kind of have to be generous. And so having a conversation with her being like, well, okay, I get that you're stingy and you really don't see anyone as like worthy of your investment. However, in this conversation, we know that that's just not true. And so now I get to be in a dialogue with my big spender to have her see where my nervous system is totally collapsed around my generosity and where it's totally collapsed around my usage of resources. But it's only in conversation and dialogue with her can I receive certain types of downloads that are unique for me. Again, no one else's formula. Someone else's formula will tell you to just be generous for the sake of being generous. And guess what? If you can't pay rent, you have no business being generous yet. No business, right? If you are in a monogamous marriage, you have no business investing energy into a new relationship with another person, right? Like there are contexts to your relationships, to your life, to the way that you relate to your resources that will tell you where to start and what to work on. And so comparison, what I call market valuation, doesn't work in feminine economics. Your value is not dependent on what your neighbor's doing or what your college buddy has been doing for the last 6 months. It has no bearing. You follow you. And the thing is, the clearer you are about your formula and the feelings that you have in your body, you will actually make some really great choices for yourself. Okay. And you'll catch yourself when you walk away from it. Now, I want to give you guys an example. This one hurts quite a bit. So I was in university and there was a guy with his booth and he goes, hey, I just want to let you know about this new currency. It's going to be the way of the future. And he started talking to me about it. It was this thing called Bitcoin. They were penny stocks at the time, like not even penny stocks. They were brand fucking new. And I had no money because I had just bought a fucking Tim Hortons with my last like $4 in my bank account. And I look at this guy and I was like, fuck, if I had $50, I would drop this. Like I had no money, I had no change, I had nothing. And I walked away from that booth heartbroken because I was like, fuck, I want to do that. I want to do that so bad. Like, fuck it if I lose $50. I bought my grandparents' lottery tickets for like 100 and they won 10. Like I wasted more money somewhere else, but fuck, I want to put money there and just see what happens. I'm not going to answer the question of like, how did it hit when I realized that like I could have been a multi-millionaire from $50 of Bitcoin. You guys can figure out how bad that hurt. Because I was a yes. I was a total fucking yes. But I didn't have the resources for it. And I didn't have the resources because I was busy following other people's formula, right? The formula of don't be risky with your money. Don't be, worry more about your coffee in the morning so you could study for the day. But the truth is had I put $50 on Bitcoin, that would have generated so much energy in my body because I was following my own was following my own formula, which in nature, just by following your own path is an energetic generator, right? Like it'll just create more energy because you're like, fuck, I'm doing the thing that I've always wanted to do. And so that actually probably would have given me more energy than the caffeine and Tim Hortons coffee cup. For those of you in the US, Dunkin' Donuts, same shit. The Tim Hortons that you have there is nowhere near the Tim Hortons we have here. But again, it's just the thing that I want you guys to understand is that with feminine economics, it's not about a formula. It's not about me teaching you the things you could learn in business school. It's about me showing you the discernment between what's true about those things and the lens that has you actually embody them, right? Knowing what your value is in the world is not an intellectual thing. It's an embodied thing. Meaning, you may intellectually know that you are worth 80K, but you are only worth 80K should you go get the job that pays you that. Now, here's the thing. Are you willing to leave the job that pays you 70K right now to go find the job that pays you 80K? Or are you going to feel entitled that your boss give you that final 10 grand raise? Because if you're not, then you're not embodied at 80K. You're embodied at 70 because you're not unwilling to leave it. You're like, no. This person needs to give me the extra 10K. No, if you embody it, it's just, oh yeah, okay. I'm going to follow the thread. I know I need to be making more money, so I got to follow this thread. And you are constantly going to follow the thread, whatever the thread may be. Your own thread, though. And that your own thread is actually guided by an energy far bigger than you are. And this is why feminine economics is a spiritual conversation, not an intellectual one. See, your thread is designed by someone much bigger than you, by an energy much wiser, by an entity much older, that already knows the path that you need to follow. The test for you is whether or not you'll follow it, whether or not you will trust yourself at every step of the way to know and take the actions needed. And in the spiritual world, there is this way that we bypass the realities of it, right? And so this is where we get careful as well to not say things like, oh, well, I just do affirmations every day. Bitch, no. Affirmations only work as much as your body believes them to be true. It doesn't matter if you say, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am rich, and that bitch. If you don't, go get that bag, right? You can only tell yourself so much before you actually have to stand upright and erect in who you are and doing the things in your everyday life that match that. Right? And one of the ways that I say this is like, the way to be embodied in your wealth is through reverence and responsibility. Because if you have reverence for your innate wealth, then you will respect the thread that you're following. You will be responsible for it, and you will go find a job that pays you the 80K. But you're unlikely to do something like just drop the 60K job when you don't have any income, right? That's irresponsible. It might be reverent to go find the 80K job, but it's irresponsible to leave the one you have now, right? This is like the nuanced thing is that they have to be together. It's a more holistic approach. It's not about, I just want to acquire so I look good, feel good, perceived as good. It's about, I'm going to take a step back and feel into the next step for me that never has me sacrifice my fundamentals. And this is where we need to focus. Because I don't think a lot of people have their fundamentals on lock. Because if we did, our nervous system would have this like beautiful way of expanding around the next thing. We'd be like, yeah, my rent's covered, my bills are paid, my debt is like rolling, I get to buy my kids Christmas gifts, my dog gets so many fucking toys. All of that would just be taken care of. And then it's about, where do I want to create now? Where do I want to expand now? and we get to actually layer up, right? And the way that innate value works, innate wealth, is that you're going to continuously to do this work and embody new levels, right? Where you go from one level of it being like, I just need my foundations met, and you get that met, and you're like, fuck yeah, like I'm worthy of having stability in my life. And then all of a sudden you get to the next round and you're like, you know what? I'm worthy of having a side hustle that is just for me. Like, it doesn't even have to make money. I just fucking love it. And all of a sudden you're carving shit in your living room and you're making jewelry, or you're like tinkering around with robots. All of a sudden you have this like side gig that you just fucking love. And then you go, wait a minute, I could make money with this. And then you get to another level of your embodied innate wealth where you actually tell somebody like, hey, I build robots for a living. And then that person talks to somebody else and they go, oh my God, we're looking for a junior analysis. And then you go, you know what? I'm actually not looking for analysis here, but if you've got like a part-time internship with your robotics division, I would love to come have fun there. And then all of a sudden you get to this place where you are literally creating jobs that didn't exist prior. And I know this because I have done it. My corporate job, both my corporate jobs that I've held, they did not have rules for me prior to me getting their jobs. I walked in and told them what I wanted. They gave me the job. And at the same time, I was willing to accept a job that wasn't the thing that I wanted, because at the time I was like, my foundations need to be met. But I had a level of embodied worth that allowed them to see and feel into my confidence and my certainty that says, you know what, we're going to back this. They will back my desire as long as I do. And backing my desire, the things that I want in my life, mean that I'm going to be more in my body to ensure that my life is an accurate reflection of it, right? I will walk away from offers that dismiss me. I will walk away from relationships that diminish me. I will not invest my energy into drama and gossip and all of the things that are energetically depleting, right? I start to look at my life more holistically and understand that it's all dynamic. There's nothing static about this. And it actually creates more space for me to create. In the last year, my business has grown by half. I've doubled my business, right? And I took 6 months off, people. Like, I did nothing for 6 months. I didn't really promote. I didn't have sales calls. I did nothing. I kind of sat on my tuchus and did nothing, right? Because my innate wealth is not about me having to hustle and grind. That is not what my formula is about. And my sense is if you're still fucking watching this, that's not what yours is either. Your innate wealth is something that's much more dynamic and juicy and fulfilling if you stop trying to compare to another formula that someone else made and was successful through for themselves. Your innate wealth is unique and independently determined. And when we talk about feminine economics, it's understanding that it is about desire and creation, and it is about your nervous system's ability to adapt and expand and open around life itself. Because I'll tell you, when you go to buy a house that is $500,000, if you don't have the nervous system arranged around it, you will actually lose the house, right? How many people in the cities like Vancouver and Toronto and New York are putting in offers on buildings and like suites and stuff that they have no capacity to be around, and then being upset that they lost the deal? I'm just going to tell you, I know why you lost the deal. And this was actually the case with a member of bank, where she was like, I put in offers, and I was like, yeah, but you're scared to pay the amount of money for that offer. She did her work. The next offer they put in, they got the house. Because where your nervous system collapses and like gets fearful, if you don't do the work, you are going to be constantly stuck where you are, because you cannot embody the level of which you need to be to have the life that you desire. So you need to create the capacity to have the life that you desire, right? You have to be able to hold it. You have to understand that, like, oh my God, sometimes being a business owner means having boundaries. God damn. Having boundaries is not something that is thought of. It is, you're going to have to sit with all the places that your throat closes up because you don't want to fight, the way that your hands get sweaty because you want to say everything correctly. This is an embodied life, man. You are not here as just brain cells in the fucking planet. You are in a body that has a crazy amount of sensations, but the sensations aren't things to block off. Those are things for you to expand around. Can you hold a hurricane in your body and still be able to ask for a raise? That is the question we're asking. Can you hold a tsunami and still be in like a deep, juicy conversation with someone you're attracted to? That is the question. Or are you going to be totally overtaken by the natural fucking occurrences inside of your body and be like, no, I can't have that, and turtle out? That's up for you. That's for you to decide. But again, if you're watching this, my sense is that you're like, I don't want to be a turtle. I want to hold this shit, and I want to hold it right. And I'll hold it right for me and for my life and what is supposed to be here. And I'm going to do that through reverence and responsibility. I'm going to practice a deep sense of embodied respect for my life and all that's in it, and be responsible for all of those things too. And so in that way, I do invite you, if you're feeling called, to come apply for bank. Inside the container, we have Vault every month. This month, we're working with the big spender, your actual nervous system, the part of you that takes out the wallet and it either stumbles or is like, take my card. We're going to discover what your big spender's like. But also in the container, you're going to find things like, what is your resourceless damsel like? What is your codependent collector like? What are these energies doing in your life, and how are they affecting the experience of it? Are they hindering it? Are they contributing to it? These are the things for you to find out, and we can only find them out when you are actually in the container having a conversation with them. So if you are feeling called, Vault this month is on Wednesday, December 15th. They are every month on the third Wednesday of every month at 5 p.m. PST. We do them live on Zoom. Replays are available as to members of Bank, but so is the bookkeeping intensive. So there's lots of juicy add-ons that come in with membership. So if you feel called at any point in time, feel free to send me a message, or I will include a link at the very bottom of this post or in my bio, depending on where I post this, for you to apply. And I highly encourage that you do, because what I'm clear about is that Bank is here to have the world be wealthy, and the world cannot be wealthy in the way that this current paradigm is sitting. And rather than fight against it, we just got to create something else. And in that, creating something else means that you have to step more into ensuring your foundations are settled so you have the space to create. Okay. If you made it this far, I would love to know what you're leaving the vault with. This is a conversation that we always have inside of Bank. So I'm leaving the vault with, it was your clear teaching for yourself that you're taking into your daily life. Just drop that in the comments. I'd love to see them. And for the members of Bank can likely attest, simply doing that will ensure that you begin the digestion process of the thing that you needed most, right? We don't digest the things that we learn, then we can't take the nutrients that they are, and they can actually become toxic in our system. So you got to digest this shit, right? Let me know in the comments what is the most important thing that you're taking away. And I'm very happy to talk to you about Bank if that is what is interesting to you. I have 2 spots this week for Wealth Imprint calls, which is basically our chance to get to know you and see if Bank is really a right fit for where you are. Okay. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.